Hello, hello. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad to finally be sitting down on this beautiful snowy day of Venus, Friday, in my study with all my beautiful beeswax candles lit for coziness, to sit down and talk to you about what's happening in the living sky. As I'm sure you probably know if you've been following the astrology, it's a pretty momentous weekend. We're going to talk about that Pluto ingress into Aquarius and what it means for you. And I'm also going to touch on a faster moving, more personal transit that we are experiencing at the same time that is flavoring this bigger transpersonal transit for us, and that's the Venus square Neptune. So those are the two places in the sky that we're going to be looking together. And I know that all the astrologers are talking to you about Pluto's ingress into Aquarius. There's so much information out there, lots of really wonderful information, and lots of stuff about what to expect in the world at large and how we are set to change as a society and what to expect over the next 20 years. And I'm going to come back later, sometime in the next couple of weeks, and give you that perspective as well and talk to you more about what this means for us as a society, what it means for us as the human family. But today, because we are just on the eve of this ingress, I really just wanted to drop in and give you some supports for navigating this significant threshold, both for the world and in our lives, and maybe calm some fears, bring some practical magic to it, and just give you some suggestions for taking really good, energetic care of yourself over the weekend. So I'm Bronwyn. I'm a predictive astrologer here on beautiful Vancouver Island. And my purpose is to help you to navigate the natural cycles within and without and feel a deeper connection through astrology to yourself, to your life path, and to your own natural life cycles. Let's start with a faster moving, smaller, more relatable transit that we're all experiencing right now, which is lovely Venus. She's in the sign of Sagittarius right now. And pretty much at this moment, as I'm recording this, she's making a square to Neptune. Neptune, one of our far out at the edges of the solar system, big transpersonal energies, is having this dynamic conversation with Venus, our sister planet, our sense of beauty, harmony, and balance, and the place within us where we bring things together. So this is a blurring of energies and a little bit of squares are dynamic. The square, that 90-degree aspect between planets, it asks for us to take action on something. It actually doesn't just ask, it pushes us to take action and can bring about dynamic change. So this is a conversation between Venus and Neptune where we may feel compelled and pushed to make decisions around Venusian things, but we're under the influence, the foggy transpersonal influence of Neptune, who doesn't always lead us to the best practical decisions. It's a beautiful transit for things like recommitting to your creative practice, whether that's dance, poetry, music, painting. All of those belong to both Venus and Neptune. So these are beautiful times to tap into the artist within. It's also a really beautiful time to rededicate to a spiritual practice and to engage in prayer and ceremony. But I also want to highlight some of the challenges of this conversation, because Venus is our beauty and our love and the place that we create from, but she has her practical Taurian side, right? And she's also our money and our values and how we practically express those values in the world. So not a great time to be making clear, practical, far-seeing decisions around things like investing your money or making a commitment in a love relationship. It's a beautiful time to be enjoying your love affair, not a beautiful time to be signing a contract around that love affair. It's a beautiful time to be considering your values and higher spiritual goals around your earnings, your money, your livelihood, and not a great time to be hiring a new accountant or sitting down with your accountant or sending off your taxes. Just give it another week or so. So use this beautiful flowing transit for what it is so supportive of. Prayer, dreaming, creativity, enjoying the artistic and spiritual realms, and enjoying the love that surrounds you, taking that love to a spiritual level. And second guess yourself a little bit if you feel compelled, that's dynamic square, to make a decision around love or money. Just let it back burner for just a few more days. We'll be in orb of this transit for 5 or 6 more days. And I really feel like our clarity in Venusian decision making is going to come back into play when Venus moves into sturdy Capricorn early next week. So you'll be feeling some pressure to make some decisions around love or money. I've seen so many examples of this in my practice over the last week. Just cool your jets for a little while, enjoy what is there to be enjoyed, and come back to it, say this time next week, before you sign that contract or before you hire that financial professional, before you make that investment, or before you commit to that relationship, okay? So let me just back up a little bit and talk about that Pluto ingress. Now, as I said, I'm going to come back later and talk to you about the big picture, because really we are leaving the last 16 years of our life and moving into the next 20 years. So remember that Pluto lives at the outermost reaches of the solar system. He holds that space between us and the mysterious outer darkness. He's named for the Lord of the Underworld. And he does guide us into those shadow realms. If you've ever had a Pluto transit to a personal planet, you know what I'm talking about. Pluto transforms us. He takes us through a life and death experience. And when we emerge from it, we are not the same. That's his job. Wherever he is navigating in our chart through each house for a decade or more, he renovates that house. He takes it back down to the studs. He rips out the foundation even sometimes and asks us to rebuild it. Now, depending on how important that house is in your chart, you may experience this on sort of just a low background level, or it may be a period of deep transformation and change in your life. Pluto's always somewhere in the chart. He's always renovating something in your chart. When he changes signs, if we're talking about the whole sign system, which is my preferred house system, when he changes signs, he also moves into a new house in your chart. So for the last 16 years, he's been renovating your Capricorn house. And Capricorn is all about our structures, inner and outer. Capricorn addresses our traditions and our social and governmental structures, as well as our internal structures of commitment and ambition and our achievements in life and the legacy that we want to leave behind, and also the relationship that we have with the traditions that we come from. Are we cycle breakers? Are we tradition upholders? Most of us are a combination of the two, and Capricorn shows the places where we grapple with those questions of legacy, of upholding or dismantling tradition. And as Pluto has moved through that sign, he has called our attention to that in a life or death way, both in terms of the story of the human family. There's been a lot of dismantling of structure in the world on a larger scale. But more importantly for today, I want you to think about what internal structures for you, what belief systems, what stories of the family of origin or the ancestors have you been dismantling and rebirthing since 2008? And this can also be about your financial structures, your business structures, your vocational structures. And layer onto that Capricornness, whatever house in your chart is involved. So I think if you think back to 2008, you will see that something began at that time. For many of us, it was, as is true with the transpersonal planets, they show where our individual story is influenced by the collective story. 2008, of course, was the major financial crash, which for many of us affected our homes, our businesses, our financial life going forward. So you may have been more or less affected by that. And where Pluto shows up in your chart will indicate your relationship to the collective experience. But also you've had very personal experiences. So this process of looking backwards really helps us to look forward to what comes next. And what comes next is 20 years in your Aquarius house. Aquarius, very different feeling than Capricorn. We're still dealing with Saturn rulership. So we're still talking about boundaries, edges, structures, and organization. But we are thinking about it in a much bigger picture, stepped back, perspective holding, cool way with Aquarius. Aquarius is thought of as a humanitarian sign because of that ability to step back and consider the big picture and consider the collective and the commitment to the collective, rather than a sort of passionate personal engagement with social structures that you find with Capricorn. So we're taking a step back, we're getting a bigger picture. There's a relief from some of the emotional engagement that we get with that earth sign as we move into more intellectual engagement of the air sign. So for the next 20 years, Pluto will be renovating your Aquarius house. Look to that house in your chart, and you'll understand the seeds being sown this year are the ones that will grow into something completely new as far as what you're visioning for the Saturnian structures of your life and what you're visioning for the part that you play in the human story. And refine this depending on which house it is for you and what your Aquarius placements are. As you can imagine, my clients this week and the week before, a lot of people have been showing up that have late Capricorn and early Aquarius placements. That's the pivot point that we're sitting at right now. And that's where we're feeling it in our chart. So if you have lots of important personal placements, say between 25 Cap and 5 Aquarius, you're really thinking about how things have changed for you over the last 16 years. And you're really looking ahead and looking towards some pressure being relieved. So as I said, I'll come back and talk a little bit more about the era that we're heading into in that kind of big picture of Pluto and Aquarius. But I wanted to emphasize the more personal experience of this transit, of this actual ingress for you today, because really we're just stepping through the door of a huge edifice that we're going to be exploring for 20 years. All we're seeing right now is the threshold. Much more is to be revealed over 20 years in your life and in the world. But how do we navigate that threshold crossing? That's what I'm concerned about. Let's bring it right home. Like, how is this feeling in our animal bodies? How is this feeling to our nervous systems? How is this feeling to our personal spiritual energy? Well, whenever we cross a threshold like this, and when we cross a threshold with the transpersonal planets, there's a little bit of that veil thinning that goes on. And it's a really excellent time to be aware of your spiritual hygiene. Take care of your energy, both physically and emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. Change is destabilizing. The turns and changes are where we can lose our balance. So as we walk over this threshold, we want to be self-contained, we want to be self-nurturing, and we want to kind of be drawn into ourselves just for this short moment of threshold crossing. There's no need to be armored. I don't want to instill fear, but just taking good care of your own energies, protecting your dream space, protecting your energetic space is a really good idea at times like this. With that in mind, I'm going to share with you some beautiful supports for the Neptunian and Plutonian energy of the next few days, and indeed the next few years. But the supports that I'm sharing with you today are specifically threshold crossing supports. So they're to guide you through these few days of the actual ingress of Pluto into Aquarius. So welcome to my wintry garden. We're going to come in and gather some herbs. Come on into the garden. Say hi to Pearl. Hi, Pearl. How are you doing? Gonna help us pick some herbs. I have this little pot of French thyme sitting right by my gateway, and I'm just going to gather a couple of stalks of this. Yes, my garden is a little bit messy. We like to let the leaves and old vegetation lie on the flower beds. It creates habitat for the little creatures and helps to nourish the soil for the spring blooms. So yes, it's a little bit messy. Probably the messiest garden in the neighborhood, but also some of the most flourishing. So here I have a few sprigs of thyme. I'm going to hold on to those. And let's go over here, and here's my rosemary bush. She got a pretty major haircut in the fall, so she's looking a little sparse, but still some beautiful fresh sprigs of rosemary that I'm going to pluck to bring inside with me. So we've got that. So thyme is an herb that is sacred to Venus, and it has been used as a purifying herb since at least since Greek times. And it's one of its magical uses is to inspire courage. So, while we're here in the garden, I want to show you, it's only January, but look, my daffodil bulbs are already coming up. Isn't that beautiful to see those signs of life already? So here I have my little sprigs of thyme and rosemary, and we're just going to pull one more herb to come in and do our little magical kitchen magic project with. And this is yarrow. This is a yellow yarrow. You can see there's one brave little bloom that is still blooming. Pearl is investigating. Okay, here we are. We're in the kitchen to do some kitchen magic. I'm going to light a red candle for courage and crossing thresholds, and I have some fun materials laid out here. I want to mention a couple of other supports while we're here. Black tourmaline is an incredibly powerful stone for moments of transition and for a little extra energetic protection during potent times. I also love smoky quartz for finding clarity and courage and finding the right words. Of course, I'm going to pull a card to inspire us, and this is a version of the Nine of Pentacles, which very appropriately shows a woman very confident in herself and her creations in a walled garden. So the herbs I've chosen for this threshold talisman are thyme for courage and purification. I've chosen rosemary, which provides protection as well as doubling down on the purification. And finally, yarrow for healing, courage, and love. So I've tied these up in this black and white cord, made 3 knots, and I'm going to just wave this through the flame of this beautiful red candle. And there is some simple kitchen magic for you. I've made a little bundle that holds all the energies of those beautiful protective and purifying herbs. Very simple herbal charm to invoke courage, protection, and purification as we cross this threshold into the next 20 years. I'm going to hang mine on my door. You might want to put yours under your pillow, next to your bed, next to your computer, just for the next few days to remind you how strong you are during this threshold time. My tea is still warm. I hope yours is too. And I hope you enjoyed that little peek into my kitchen magic practice, and that maybe you can take some time this weekend for some kitchen magic of your own to make a threshold crossing charm. And I'm just wishing you so well as we all cross this threshold together from Capricorn into Aquarius. And I'm here for you if you want to sit in the consultation space and look at how this has landed in your chart, or just drop into the comments and say hello if you made it all the way to the end. How are you going to mark this ingress in your own life and chart? I would love to hear. Thank you so much for being here. If you liked this video, then like the video and subscribe for more. I'll be back next week. with another peek at the sky, my personal sky and the sky that we share. Lots of love to you. Bye for now.